usa ka katawhan. Cebu Catholic Television Network.
Good evening, maayong gabi. Ania na punta karon sa ato ang regular fourth Wednesday of the month nga programming, ang Cebu Lady Lawyers Association, Partners in Law. Ako si Attorney Irene Ann Caballes, inyuhang usual anchor, kauban sa Legal Alternatives for Women Center Inc. Today is February 28, 2024. It would have been the last day of the month kung dili pa lang leap year karong tuiga. Pero hapit na gyud nato maen ang February. And because we like to keep things current and recent, atong itakol karon ang very hot o relevant nga topic, kaning konstitusyon, saligang batas or sa Binisaya pa batakang balaod. Unsaon ni siya pagmugna, unsaon ni siya amendar, unsaon pag-revise, and everything to do about the Constitution o pipila na kabu constitutions na agian sa ato ang nasod. Joining me tonight are four very young lawyers, and grabe pa kay ni sila ka-fresh ang ilahang pagtuon sa ilahang political o constitutional law. Kay they are passers of the Hernandoit Bar. So, kuan pa ni sila, Christmas season nga lawyers na to. No, pero di na Hernandoit, Hernandans na sila. They are Hernandan. Did it or Hernandan nga, mga lawyers. Friends, help me welcome Attorney Bethel Charis Binahon. Welcome, Attorney Bethel.
Hello, Attorney. Maayong gabi sa tanan.
Then also joining us is Attorney Mary Jane Verdida. Attorney MJ.
Hi, Attorney.
Maayong
Thank you for
gabi.
inviting me tonight.
And also Attorney Trisha Jean Montinola.
Good evening, Attorney. Maayong gabi sa tanan.
Kani silang tanan, will have you know, are volunteers also of the Legal Alternatives for Women Center Inc. Unya ilahaning maiden nga interview karon, so ilag yun ning gipangandam. So, are you ready now, ladies?
Yes, Attorney.
Uda, tanawa. I love those Ready na ko mangutana. Okay. Kanang muingon tag constitution, what is the concept of a constitution and what is the current constitution of the Republic of the Philippines?
Now, Attorney, if we talk about Constitution, we have to relate it sa mura ni siyang Bible. Oo, kung ang atong relihiyon na ay Biblia, ang ato pong kanang magbabalaod, napod sila'y Biblia, which is the Constitution. According to Mr. Coley, he said that iyang gidefine ang Constitution as a body of rules and maxims in accordance with which the powers of the sovereignty are habitually exercised. So, by that alone, so ang tanan nga power sa atong gobyerno, makita nato diha, unsay angay nilang buhaton, unsa po'y mga dili nila.
Pwedeng
mo siya
buhaton. Also, it's really like a Bible,
Yes,
no?
yes, Attorney.
Or a Magna Carta of all the laws in the
Yes,
in
yes.
the country. So tanang otoridad sa gobyerno dinhi subayon.
Yes, Attorney.
Dinha subayon. So importante gyud ang constitution, pero magsige lang ang public makadungog og constitution, unsa gyud gay inang constitution o nganong kan lain na sad nga balaod. What differentiates a constitution from a law?
Kung moingon magotag Constitution, Attorney, mura ni siya og naatay mama, naaputay mga anak. Kung moingon magotag Constitution, mao ni siya ang mother of all laws. And if moingon pud ta og mga statutes, mga RA, batas pambansa, mao ni siya ang gianak tungod sa Constitution. Kay kaning kuan nato, let's say mga Republic Acts, ang kani siya nga mga balaod, di ni siya pwede nga mulapas ani constitution. Kay kung mulapas siya, mahimo na siya nga without force and effect, so null and void na siya.
Oy, take note. Naagyo di ay mga balaod nga pwede manal and void. Ang kanang null and void mo na siya walay bisa. Walang bisa kay kanang nilapas sa constitution. So importante kay nga tun-an ang constitution. Ang Pilipinas kapila na amend or naka-revise or nagkabag-o nga constitution.
So, actually, Merg, na nagitay upat ka constitution. Ang ikaupat mo ni atong current ang 1987 constitution. Pero before...
Dugay sa 1987.
Yes.
Wa gyud na amindaran, no? 27 years na siya old na constitution. Oh, no. 37 years old.
Yes, pero so prior to the 1987 Constitution, naapod tay Malolos Constitution, there was the 1935 Constitution and the 1973 Constitution. So ubay-ubay na pud ang mga constitution
Ang Malolos Constitution early 19th century
around
or early
after-
20th century.
after Spanish time, if I remember it correctly.
So nagdugay gyud di ay siya gailis na 1935 then finally 1973 and then 1987 murag nganong every 30 years man ni so every 35 to 37 years niya karon na naputay ka ng constitutional issue which is very very current in Congress right now murag kada 35 years or 37 years murag mag midlife crisis ang constitution. Okay, so the 1987 Constitution, when was this enacted?
February 2 of 1987. May take effect siya.
May take effect siya.
Yes.
Okay.
Pero siya nag-birthday.
Okay. So mag-ura yun siya,
Yes, this February.
mag-ura sad siya nag-birthday di ay, no? February born.
Yes.
Okay. Under the which part of the 1987 Constitution, if the Constitution is the mother of all laws in the country, can it even be changed? Can it be modified? Can it be revised?
Yes, attorney. Of course, there are ways in order to change the Constitution. It's under Article 17 of the 1987 Constitution. So, kinahanglan ni siya a little bit more explanation because there are two types of changes. So, one we have an amendment and the other one we have a revision. So, if we're going to do an amendment, lahi sa siyang pamaagi compared sa revision.
Revision.
So magkatag amendment, kung moingon tag amendment, maghimo tag changes, mo-add lang siya, mo-delete, or mo-modify lang siya sa current Constitution, but it's not going to change the primary or the basic principles of the Constitution. Wala siya dakong kausaban nga maka-apekto nato. But when we say revision, muna na siya nga, na siya dakong change nga mo-affect. Munang, attorney, I know you're aware nga, lahi-lahi po siya og ways
to
kung mo-amend ka, you do karon ang current topic is the people's
initiative. People's initiative kana padaan na po'y people's initiative. How does it differentiate from the other ways to amend and or revise? If at all ang people's initiative supposed to be murag dili na pwede mo revise, no?
Yes.
You can only amend a constitution, which to me is also kind of strange because embedded in our constitution is already what we term people power, which is a direct act of state by the people, and if the people want that done, any state action is always legal. Monang, di ba? So, nindot kay ni ang ato ang topic karong gabihi una gyud. Kaya mingon sa daog ka ng amendment or revision. Kung revision, di day pwede hilabtan ang state policies and principles. So, kung na gani na maka-affect nga something sa asa gani na nga article sa ato ang constitution ng state policy principles and policies, article 2.
Yes.
So kuno bantayan gid ay na pumutouch na gani na maski dili panganlan ang article 2 pero moigo di ako basig dili na di ay na amendment.
Yes. It was
Revision na di ay na.
correct.
So sige. Basically, what are the modes to amend or revise a constitution? And kinsa usually ang naay power mo sugod ana nga process?
I think before ta mo go through siguro na attorney, I wanna touch on what you mentioned a while ago nga kung di ba natay power unta sa people to change, and nga naman nga lisod-lisoron man ang people nga pwede ron unta people's initiative when we're going to revise.
Oh,
That is a
yes.
very good point actually.
That's actually a good, sige,
Yes.
ganahan ko ana. Sige, sige, before we go into the nitty-gritty,
Yes.
ngano na controversial man kung katawhan gyud ay may ganahan mo ilis nganong lisod-lisoron. Okay.
Yes. That was actually very well explained by the former Justice Carpio in one of his interviews. So, mo magani siya mahitabo. If we're going to say an amendment, diba gamay lang siya nga change. When we going to say amendment, pwede ta mag-go through people's initiative. Unsa may mahitabo kung ay people's initiative? Na ay certain changes on the Constitution, unya na ay certain signatures nga kinahanglan nato ma-comply with. Now, after ana, i-certify lang na sa COMELEC, once certified na nga sakto ang process, pwede na din ta mo go through a plebiscite. So, in ana ka paspas.
Kana sang plebiscite, how does it differ from the usual? Kaya di ba plebiscite, kung plebiscite na votation?
Yes.
Oh, na votation. Oh, how does it differ from elections? Kung ganong appeal man ang COMELEC, how does it differ from the usual elections?
Correct. Explain na later ni Attorney Trisha. So, later on, a plebiscite. So, going back sa katong ingon nga revision, kung mabuhat mo gutag revision per se, is going to go through CONCON and CONAS. Kaya dako man kay siya change, it has to go through a deliberative body. So, kinahanglan dili siya automatic nga human nimong pirma, i-certify lang plebiscite. So, kinahanglan pa siya lalisan, kinahanglan pa na journal, debatihan pa siya maayo, kay dako kay siya effect sa atong country. Muna nga dili in ana kadali ang revision.
But it's also quite interesting because what you say also raises a point in my mind. No nga kung revision kinahanglan o CONAS or CONCON, which we will explain unsay difference po danang
Yes.
CONAS o CONCON later, but basically ma-involve ang members of Congress.
Exactly.
But remember the members of Congress are also just the representatives of the people, because we are a republican democracy. So the will of the people is well, we hope it is going to be carried out through their elected representatives. Kung representative ra na sila, nganong revise sila, unya nganong ang mga tao na hinuon nga direct state action, di man hinuon, pwede mag-revision, gilimit sa amendment. So that's also a point sad nga murag
Question.
o ma-question po, no? Pero kanan later tubagon po na. But really in our constitution, klaro man sad gyud. Revisions only by initiative kana direct state action by the people ng PI karon, people's initiative nga ang uban mo tawag na private interest. Daghan kay term sa PI,
Exactly.
sa fiscal office preliminary investigation man na. So kana siya mo direct state action man unta na, pero limited gyud to amendments. Okay, sige. Atong isahon na explained na kay too well ni kanang Attorney Beth, no, nga we have to distinguish whether or not the changes being advanced fall under amendment or revision. Now we say that there are three ways to make amendments or revisions in the 1987 Constitution. What are they?
Sa toong giingon ganiya, which is a people's initiative, so kinahanglan siya required signature. There's CONCON, Constitution, and there's also CONAS, but that will be explained further by Attorney MJ.
Sige, take it away, Attorney MJ.
Okay. Now, regarding to revision of the Constitution, it is only limited to CONAS and CONCON. Now, ako i-differentiate unsay mahitabo kung mag-CONAS, unsay mahitabo kung CONCON, and unsa man po'y mga dangers if we will choose the other
One or the other.
option.
But do we even have a choice? I mean, directly, kita, if we are not members of Congress, will we even have a choice nga ang congressman mo involved gyud aning CONAS and CONCON, Constituent Assembly o Constitutional Convention. Sige, take it away.
Yes, kung moingon man gud ta og CONAS, so ang pag-play into existence ana niya, it requires a 3/4 vote of the majority. Now, I believe medyo kuan pa kung how should they vote, it should be jointly ba or separately. But I have to admit that it must be separately. Kay,
Wait, before we go there, nganong na may joint o separate?
Yes,
Explain
yes.
siguro na to. When we say they, we mean our members of Congress. But are our members of Congress classified as well? Are they classified?
Yes,
What
yes.
what are they?
Bicameral man ang ato ang Congress. So naatay senators and we have also the House of Representatives. Now, if we're going to look at the numbers, we only have 24 ka senador. And then we have right now 316 House of Representatives.
Okay.
So,
Ato na po nang likuan because ang mahibawaan ba ya sa public, maingon tag senator sa yon, senador.
Senador.
Maingon tag House of Representatives, kinsa man na silang House of Representatives kay dili man na, they are not commonly known as
yes,
ah,
yes.
representative like this or member of the house like this. They are commonly known as congressman.
Yes.
Oh, unya napagiubang congressman ana nga dili unta congressman kay ang member of Congress ana is the party list. So party list rep unta. And I have been signaled that it's now time to pause for a few messages from our friends. We will be back. Stay tuned because the topic is heating up.
Discover the beauty of the Philippines. With Philippine Airlines, the country's flag carrier. The airline that lets you feel the warmth of the nation. Mabuhay!
And we are back. While we were on a break, we were having to review again who are our members of the Senate, what are their powers, how long should they stay, nga kinsa pud ning ato ang House of Representatives. Earlier, we mentioned nga kani sila known by the designation, more commonly known by the designation as congressman. So kung imong huna-unaon congressman nga ming kag congress, dili di ay na kumpleto kumingon ra kag ang mga congressman kay apil man sa congress ang Senate. So duha day na ka kanang bodies, the Senate and the House of Representatives. Kaning House of Representatives, they are now 316 in all, including the party lists. How many party lists? So murag kuan na no?
So, dili siya mo exceed og 20%.
20% of the
So
total.
kuan na sila kanang murag 230 kapin naman siguro 240 kapin ang congressional
Yes,
districts gyud.
districts.
Unya ang the rest ana party list na sila. Okay. So moingon ta og kanang so diri sa tasa kanang House of Representatives and the party lists. Pila man gyud di ay na ka, how long is one term, when do they get elected, and for how many times will they be elected for the same position? Okay.
Actually, ang answer ana sad nga question, sige, diri gyud nato makita unsa ka importante ang constitution because the answer to that question is actually found in the constitution, none other,
Okay.
no less than the
So
constitution.
kani magkuan gid na the constitution's provisions always affect each
Yes.
other yun. So sige, unsay kuan, unsa toy answer ana nga pangutana. Where are they elected, when, for how long, and for how often?
So ako sa start sa senator. So senators actually dapat ang ilang term is actually in
Wait, hang on.
sorry.
Katusang koan. Arita sa House of Representatives.
Okay,
we were
sige.
talking about the House of Representatives, Congressman, and the party list. Sige.
So, representative.
So ang kaning mga House of Representatives kay dili gi-elect na siya sa katawhan as their legislative representatives and as party list representatives.
When we say legislative representatives, what do we mean?
Legislative, sorry.
Districts.
Legislative districts, yes.
Legislative districts. What do we mean by these legislative districts, and who sets the legislative districts?
Ang legislative districts attorney, I think makita nato sa ato ang government code pod. So diha nato makita kung unsa may mga paagi or makunsaon siya pag-consider as a legislative district. So naa na siya yung mga requirements pod, but we will not touch on that na.
Oh, okay.
Medyo
Yeah,
taas
okay,
po na
taas
siya
na.
na procedure.
But to explain what are legislative districts, mauni ka nang moingon tag first district,
District,
second
second,
district, or sa Binisaya pa diri sa Cebu,
Mga distrito.
naatay kanang primero distrito, segundo distrito, sixto distrito. Naapagyud tay kanang the lone district of Mandaue
Mandaue
City,
City.
the Cebu City North or the South District. So it is by, when we say legislative district, it is by area or territory and the people residing in that area or territory. Mingon ganita og party lists, these are
Kani mga party list, mga grupo ni sila. Kuan ni sila, they represent the marginalized sector, the kanang underrepresented sector. So kana sila ang mga congressman nga kanang party list representative, nagrepresent sila anang nga cause
Nga kausa,
yes,
okay.
nga kausa. Represent sila anang nga kausa, and then para naapoy voice ang katong mga marginalized, mga underrepresented sector sa Congress.
And that is also kanang understandable because kung mingon ta og kanang legislative districts lang, usahay dili na makitaan sa mga legislative leaders there kung unsa ang kanang commonality sa sentiment, not just within his district but also outside, like for example teachers, migrant workers, drivers, urban poor. So they are there everywhere, and they could also make pulong-pulong so that they will have a voice in lawmaking. How long is the term of a congressman or a member of the House of Representatives? How long?
3 years.
It's 3
3
years.
years. But
For how long can be? For how often can they be elected?
Maximum of
3
3
terms.
terms.
3 terms.
Consecutive terms.
Okay. Ang ilahang kuan pod jurisdiction, or should we call it jurisdiction, or ilahang limits of their duties and responsibilities kay sa ila ra pong legislative district and within their sector of party list sila. Okay, let's go now to Senate. Sa laing nasod mingon sila lower house ang House of
upper
Representatives, o upper house ang Senate, pero di man na lower, di man na upper because they're just really bicameral. Mas daghan lang gyud ang House of Representatives kay mas daghan man og localities, kay ang Senate is national.
Yes, Senate is national. And we want to avoid saying a lower house, upper house, because we want to emphasize that kanis lang ang mga representatives are co-equal branches. That's why we want to avoid that, and we call them senators and congressmen.
Congressmen,
congresswomen. So if we say senators, they actually have a term of not more than 6 years for 6 years sila, but not for 2 consecutive terms. Okay. So maximum nimo is 12 lang, consecutive
terms. And then they are, because of the nature of the katong atong 1987 Constitution, mura na sila overlapping ang terms. You'll always have the for any Senate term, you'll always have half who are subject for kanang re-election, and then half who still have 3 more years to go, because the election for the members of Congress happen every 3 years.
3 years siya. Okay, 3 terms consecutive.
It happens every 3 years. So, every 3 years, naagyod tayo butaran nga congressmen or members of the House of Representatives and party list, and we also have to vote for 12 senators kay mag-interchange man. Okay, this is to ensure nga na ay continuity nga at the same time without turning either house into a monopoly. Without,
Checks and balance.
Check and balance na.
Still to
Pero what sa atong constitution, when we say, you were mentioning that one of the ways to amend or revise the constitution is by a constituent assembly.
and
Who are the members of the constituent assembly?
If you tackle about constituent assembly, ang mga nagdumalaan na is katong mga gitawag na nato nga congressman. So directly sila ang mag-propose sa unsay mga ipang-revise
Or amend?
i-amend.
Or amend.
Now, but if we talk about CONCON, necessarily dili ni siya katong mga naa sa Congress nato. We will be given an opportunity, the people will be given an opportunity to elect kinsa ang atong mahimong representative to propose amendments or revision to the
So,
Constitution.
when we say constituent assembly, the members there will be the Congress acting no longer as a senator,
Senator,
or
no longer as
as
a
congressman, but as a constituent assembly. Okay. What does the Constitution provide regarding any amendment or revision when it's done by an act of Congress as a constituent assembly? Among i-flash on your screens right now ang Article 17 of the Constitution, the 1987 Constitution, which tackles on amendments and revisions. To read, so good sa first way of amending, no? Any amendment to or revision of this Constitution may be proposed by the Congress. So muna na ato ang constituent assembly upon a vote of 3/4 of all its members, and then silent for a while. Semicolon. So the thought is paused right there. Okay, semicolon man. 316 members of the House of Representatives plus 24 senators. We have
340.
340. If we go by simple majority,
170.
Half plus 1 lang siya.
170 plus 1, 171.
170 plus 1, so 171. Unya, kay ang ato ang House of Representatives, kay 316 naman na sila daan. So kung mo go ta by simple majority, or if we make a plain reading of this, murag kulba-kulba sad no, kay pwede na lang di ay og kanina lang if we know very well, especially sa local, they would cleave to a national party, and if this national party will vote in kuan gyud in as a cohesive whole, kuya ug makuha dayon ang
Yes, exactly.
ang 171. So even if the Constitution, which by its characteristic should be plain spoken, plainly worded, and you don't go outside the plain letter or the meaning of the law, how should this provision, upon a vote of 3/4 of all of its members, be interpreted? Take note, this one is also again subject to constitutional interpretation. Pwede pa na awayan kay ang atong constitution dapat clear unta. It would seem clear kung imo na it's mathematical, pero when what Attorney Beth said, both are co-equal.
Yes.
So dili na pwede nga kanang ang voice of one would be overpowered by the voice of the other body. So how should this interpretation, this provision be interpreted in the light also of the pronouncements of the framers of the Constitution, or those who have studied the Constitution extensively?
So, ang kuan gyud ani, it has been established na jud nga this should be interpreted as the Senate and the House of Representatives to be voting separately, not jointly. Okay, we'll go back to the history of our Constitution. Our Constitution is actually patterned or inspired by, maybe ka na ang word, by the American Constitution. And during the
Sunod-sunod yun ta.
Yes.
Sunod-sunod yun kita nila. Benchmark yun kita nila.
Whitewash it, joke lang. So, during the deliberations, katong nag-changes sa with the 1987 Constitution, it has been clear there that kaning check and balance of our Senate and our House of Representatives is our main goal. So kung mahitabo magod, if you say voting together or voting jointly, mahimong flower na lang ang Senate. Kaya bisan pag sila 24 will not agree, kung ang supermajority sa House of Representatives will agree, then ilang vote would not really matter. And that would be going...
So why do we have a BICAM? Diba?
Yeah.
Why should we be a BICAM if we're just going to halo-halo there?
Exactly.
Vote? So apples and oranges, good na sila. So we cannot count 24 apples, 316 orange, and then let them vote together as a hybrid fruit nga apple orange. Uy, time sa ning kuan na sad, ning sign na sad ang ato ang technical crew that again, the discussion is heating up and we are going to be running down to our last segment. So stay tuned. We will be back.
Discover the beauty of the Philippines. With Philippine Airlines, the country's flag carrier. The airline that lets you feel the warmth of the nation. Mabuhay!
Okay, we are back. So pretty good na mo after makadungog lang mo unsa mi during the break. Perte yung sabaa, perte yung lingawa kay kami mismo diri ga sige na mi og debate. Okay. Sige. So upon a vote of 3/4 of all of its members, the Congress as a constituent assembly can amend or revise the Constitution. We have said nga dili ni dapat basahon in the plainest mathematical terms because you don't mix apples with oranges. So we have to let the oranges vote their own and the apples vote their own, and then it has to be 3/4 of both.
Exactly.
If you only get a 2/3 majority of one and a 2/3 majority of the other, dili sad siya. Pwede. It has to be 3/4 of vote each. So, kanang 75% of 316 and 75%, masayon ang 75% of 24. No, kay kuan ra.
At least mami percentage. 75, exactly.
18. At least 18 ng 316. Basta i-times na lang ninyo 0.75 o kamo nay bahala ana. So if that happens, then actually revising or amending the Constitution would be a not that easy prospect.
Exactly.
It would be really rigid. Said no kay kuan. Okay. So next nga kuan. Next nga way to amend or revise the Constitution is
to do the Constitutional Convention. And I think mga proven and tested na gyud nga CONCON can really
move things.
move move
That's the
it.
last one, no?
Yes,
Attorney
yes,
Angie?
sa 1987. Kay I think it's also followed in 1973 Constitution.
Con-con
But
gyud.
con good siya. Now, I will tell you po.
It's also, I think, least expensive.
Expensive,
No, kay
practical.
Oo, practical
kanang
siya.
giswelduhan naman ni mudaan ang kuan.
Oo, but I think
Mapi-API ta basig kinahanglan ta mag ayuda dunganon mas ayuda. Daga na kay gan program funds. Okay, sige. But sige.
But
Go.
mo siya
Comment
attorney.
lang to, comment.
Oo, but mo gyud na siya attorney. Why is it nga dili man gyud mo go through pod ang CONAS? Why is it that ang CONCON ang pinaka nindot or viable siya? Although CONCON is really
Con-as could
costly.
ba ya? Con-as could. And I think they should because there are some
Yes.
like for instance this first provision na pwede man ani mong ikuan by Con-as if you just do
Oo.
it. But I think also
I think
the
napod
House of
siya
Representatives will say,
something. Oo.
we like to keep it hanging there.
Yes, yes,
We like to
yes.
keep it hanging
Oo.
there.
Now, if we talk about CONCON man good, so sa ako nang ginaingon, there will be other people. So mga learned delegates na pwede ma-elect in order to propose
From where
revisional
are they
amendments.
elected?
So, kuan siya, attorney, there will be in an election. So, I think there is an enacting law also for that, the RA 6132. So, naa siya mga qualifications, kinsay mga pwede ma-elect pod nato. And most likely,
Who calls for the election of the delegates?
the election for the delegates attorney, I think, kuan siya, Congress itself. Oo. Now, ang mao na to, ang nakanindot lang yun with the CONCON man good is we can invite other mga experts
Their own fields.
in their own fields. And mao man
So
good.
that dili ra kaayo
Yes,
Republican
oo,
no nga
Republican,
representative
oo.
ra
Because
pod, oh.
actually, if we look at it
Kay
good,
kung
we will
sila pod
open.
mo'y magkuan delegate. So,
Delegate.
Puro
Listen,
politiko ra
Puro
tanan.
politiko. oo.
Alright lang.
So, mas nakanindot niya kay we will open man go the book of the Constitution for revision and amendment. Might as well, we will invite or we will vote for the delegates nga expert ana nga field. Para pod, when ato gyud siyang i-revise pod, ang mahitabo is katog yung mga need na nato and also kuan gyud nga mao na ato ang kinahanglan for
and then
now.
makakoncentrate sila
Yes,
ana
oo,
leaving
oo.
still Congress to do its other legislative
Yes,
functions
exactly
instead of
po.
being mag-away-away na.
Mag-debate pa dito.
By
Busy
common
naman sila.
by common experience dugay ra magyud
Dugay
kayo na
jud
sila
sila
mag-debate because they really
magkasinabon.
want to
Oo.
they like talking.
Yes,
They
yes.
like talking so unang
Privileged
Privilege
privilege
speech.
speech. Kaya na mga man siguro mag-constituent assembly. Lisod pa ang kanang majority.
Yes.
Yes.
The required majority, no? Unya, so kaning konkon, the ones who will elect the delegates are the people themselves or it will be the members of Congress.
It will be the people themselves, attorney. There will be a separate election for that.
Okay.
That's
And the
in short.
delegates come from
Kuan siya, attorney. Pwede siya mga expert on their own field.
fields.
Pwede siya.
Pwede po siya ka ng existing lawmakers,
Yes, yes,
existing,
pwede ra po. Oo.
even existing executives like mayors or basta ka ng murag na alay
Different
expertise
point
or
of view.
points of view in that
Expertise.
field. How many delegates?
It should be, attorney,
I seem to remember two delegates
2
per
delegates per local districts. Oo.
so at least
At least na ay makarepresent.
Sa laylay nga.
And how do they vote? Is it by 2/3 majority or kuan?
That is majority, attorney. Kay ang 2/3 man good, it's only for calling it upon its existence. Oo, kay ang nato makita.
Then the 2/3 majority to call for its existence is also kuan kanang voting separately
Separately
gihapon ng
gihapon.
ang house.
Yes, yes.
But however, there is something that I heard na when you say voting separately, both houses have to be in joint session.
Session.
That is so funny.
Yes.
That's why it's also confusing. They're not voting jointly, but the session is joint.
Joint.
Can somebody explain why it can only be in a joint session where the houses will vote separately?
Okay, dapat siya kanang joint session kay ang naamangod sa provisions all members. So, kung joint session naa sila dito.
Tatanan.
Yes.
Ah.
Pero voting separately to represent their respective house of ilang respective house, the Senate and the House of Representatives.
Yes, because also, if they are not voting jointly, you don't need to say voting separately
Separately.
because they're always in separate sessions. So the moment you say they should be in joint Congress in joint session, they need to vote separately.
Practical sad nga, joint lang ang session, kaysa na maglahi-lahi pa.
Maglahi-lahi pa.
Another budget
Sad.
na sad.
Oo.
So that's
So, kana. So, that is the constitutional convention. So, simple majority na lang the moment na anay, na anay,
Call na.
ipas
Call na
na.
siya.
Oh, okay. Will there be a wala na plebiscite, no? Because it's the delegates already voting for
kuan
it.
pa na siya, attorney. Proposal stage man to.
Ah,
We still
proposal
have the
stage pa.
ratification.
Okay.
Plebiscite gihapon.
So, ang
Plebiscite
proposal,
gihapon.
so it's these delegates who will come up with the proposal.
Proposal,
And
yes.
then, kinsa man mo yes,
So,
sa ilahang proposal.
Ang muyasa na ang mga tao. Kay the power is kanang magikan siya sa katawhan.
Mao na ng simple majority
Simple,
na
Yes.
dayon.
And then, kanang isignify na sa katawhan ang ilahang consent through the plebiscite. Mo na ilahang mag-yes or no sila sa mga gi-propose sa mga
Mao na,
kuan.
di I know.
Yes.
Usa sa nas kadako kay nga diferensya gawas nga dili kung plebiscite gani, still it's an election pero you only have two answers, yes,
Yes or
no. Pero kung
Yes.
kung mingo kag election sa mga officials na hala pwede mong maabot diha og 20 ka
Yes.
kandidato para presidente, 20 ka kandidato para kuan asa ka position.
Yes,
O,
kaya ang
sige.
election manggod attorney is muna ang mga tao nga nagpili sila sa ilang representante sa gobyerno. Whereas kung plebiscite or plebisito, muna ang mo signify sila nga mo agree sila or mo disagree sila sa proposed changes sa constitution or any laws for that matter.
Okay. Sige. We have the Constitutional Convention, we have the Constituent Assembly. Let's go now to the rather mainit nga
Init
topic,
nga topic
nga
karon
at the same time maoy kanang gikuti-kuti jud karon.
correct.
Kaning is there any way nga ang katawhan mismo ang mo propose
Yes.
og laws and then magpa-ratify og laws? What is this way?
Mo to akong gi-mention ganiha nga naatay third way which is only applicable kung naatay amendments lang which is people's initiative.
How about a referendum? Unsa maning initiative and referendum?
Ang referendum is more on laws na siya kung nakay gusto i-propose nga laws ang katawhan. So kung moingon tag initiative, more on connected siya sa constitution if gusto nimo i-change ang particular provision of the constitution.
Constitution.
But limited
Although
on
initiatives can also be taken on laws,
Yes, pwede
even
gyapon.
ordinances. The referendum is more on bali ang lawmakers may mo propose sa katawhan ganahan mo ging ani nga balaod gi-refer back, do you want this law or not, but the kaning initiative is really ang initiative pwede kang maka-amend even not just the constitution but even laws, local ordinances,
Local ordinances.
etc. Pero ang karon nga mainit nga topic kay ang initiative nga
Initiative.
on the Constitution.
Yes.
Okay, ground rules for how an initiative on the Constitution can be started.
Okay, so there should be a petition and it should be signed by at least 12% of the total number of our registered voters. And then it's not enough na 12% ang nakasign. It should be that at least 3% of the legislative districts must be
Sakto.
represented.
So naay minimum vote. So all the legislative districts should be made to vote and at least 3% of them say
Yes.
yes. But even if at least 3% of them say yes, kung sila punta na i-averaging ni mo nara sa 7%,
dili.
dili gyapon.
Yes.
Kay kinahanglan og 12% sa registered
Registered voters.
voters. Nganong giing-ani man ni nga naay 12-3? Is that something to do also with the fact that some legislative districts are really just very vote rich?
That's also one kuan sa attorney, and one factor, and we want to make sure sad nga represented jud ang mga legislative districts. Dili enough lang
Kaya bitaw, kung mamili lang ko og kanang mamili lang ko og kanang mga daghang tawo nga legislative district nga makaabot ko og kanang maskin pag ang namirma ana nila kay mga 5% ra pero nahimo na siyang 12% of the entire voting populace tungod kay vote rich kaayo siya nga kanang district. So mao na lisod baya sad gihapon ang initiative, no? But lately there appears to be a people's initiative that has been received by Congress. I'll be frank, I haven't seen a copy of the proposal. Have you?
Only a picture, attorney, because
I really wanted to see that. Kaya I'm
Yes.
also very confused what the issues are. We will share it on the for the first time. Kaya I was looking.
same time.
What are the contents of that? We'll flash it on the screen.
So ang katong proposed gipa katap ni sa mga local government good starting from the barangays mo na yung mga storya and then naani nga petition is mainly the section 1 of article 17. So ang nadiri ang paragraph 1 ang giingon diri is the Congress upon a vote of 3/4 of all its members voting jointly at the call of the Senate President or the Speaker of the House of Representatives. So, ang current nga paragraph 1 of Section 1 of Article 17 gidungagan nga gibutangan na gid ang manner of voting, dapat voting jointly na daw, and then at the call of the Senate President or the Speaker
Dili
of the
voting
House.
in joint session.
No, jointly.
Voting you jointly. So,
Yes.
gimix
Sila.
ang apples o ang oranges.
Mao na siya. Muna ang pinaka-issue na karon kay mag-ingon man ng mga tao nga kung inyo nang isagol ang duha, mo tong giingon ni Attorney Beth Gold, ma-flower
na lang ang
So, basta ma-flower. So, mauna siya ang nakita na to.
Yes.
Any other provision on economic provisions sa ilahang proposal?
No, kay actually kani ang petition kinahanglan usara pud ni ang ilang i-propose ana para ma-valid pud siya one
Okay.
subject matter.
Because there have been reports from other from everywhere that economic provisions were proposed, and in other districts pod, it was more on the term of Congress. It should be 5 years and then a fresh start, or that becomes confusing. So could it possibly be that there are several propositions made and the people were just made to sign because it's could it be that you propose different propositions in one paper and then you just let them sign and then all their signatures will be considered like a signature for all three, or so how then do we know that there's 12-3? I mean the 12% and the 3%, because if you also instead of counting it separately you also count it jointly. So how do we
So,
That's
i-check man
something.
pod na sa COMELEC attorney ang number of signatures, tapos kung validly pod siya nga gisignan sa mga tao, i-recheck po na sa COMELEC.
But once a petition has been filed and it doesn't have a required number of votes, di ba COMELEC still keeps on accepting
Yes.
signatures? So how do we know that those signatures are for which measure and for which signatures are for what measure? That's again.
Yeah, that's the question.
Okay,
Body
so
regulation.
I think that's what makes this people's initiative somewhat problematic and also somewhat troublesome siya. So, in your opinion, should the Constitution be changed or revised?
Karon, for my personal opinion, attorney, no, dili gid siya because the Constitution is working naman pod. Dili siya angay usbon kay wala may guba sa iya. Hana lang siguro yung mga modifications for
So
the
amendments
current
lang.
amendments lang.
Ako, I also
Fully
agree.
revision.
I also
So,
agree. We need amendments
Yes.
because the Constitution has to keep up with the times, and then we see, oh my goodness, this portion on the amendments and revision itself needs a little bit more explaining because it is a bit it can cause recurring questions again and again, when in fact if Congress can only vote on a state of war or on a state of emergency in joint session, voting separately by 2/3 majority. How much more when you change or revise, when you need to overhaul. Okay, revision is like an overhaul of
Yes.
your constitution. So for now,
Amendment lang.
amendment lang. And
Yes.
the most viable and the one that has been shown to work is the
Mr. Concon.
CONCON. It seems to be the
Mag-debate pa sa.
Mag-debate pa.
I'm all for that, Sam.
I'm also
The deliberative body sa
Yes.
to tackle it really
really well
thoroughly.
before
Yes.
submitting the
Present sa tao.
proposal to the
People. Kaya aminin natin,
People.
firma lang tao sahay and then we never read it, we never understood it.
Finally, has there been any case law stating that is there any case law, any decision? Do we have even a working enabling law on the People's Initiative?
Yes.
Do we have a working law, or has that law been somehow by jurisprudence declared to be imperfect, inadequate, or needs a little bit
Yes.
more addition also?
So naataaning ko ni Republic Act 6735, the Initiative and Referendum Act. Pero under this law, ma-apply ra ni siya for the amendment of the local ordinances and national laws. Dili ni siya applicable to the amendment of the kanang constitution. And then this law is also explicit nga dili siya pwede gamiton to revise the constitution.
The Constitution. Oo.
Yes. And even kaning validity aning 6735 is discussed in the case of Santiago versus Comelec. O nga niingon ang Supreme Court, the law did not provide sufficient means to facilitate the amendment of the Constitution through People's Initiative. Pero karon pod attorney, there is the pending House Bill 9868 titled Enabling Law on People's Initiative to Propose Directly Amendments to the Constitution. Pero wala pa gina siya enabling kay House Bill.
House
Bill
Bill.
pa lang siya.
Pero sige na lang, at least,
At least
naninood sila kay every 35 or 30 something years mag midlife crisis ang constitution. So nagasige taog kadang adapt amend. Oh my goodness. Nice pagyudunta ni to extend pa more because
Yes.
there are really more issues to be delved in, and maybe hopefully next month we can continue where we left off.
Yes, yes.
But for now, we really have to say good night to our friends. But before that, do we have any parting messages? Because the time has run down on us again. We are very talkative. Okay, Attorney Beth.
Ang ako alang parting message is I think the electorate should be able to ask more questions, be more inquisitive, and learn more about how the Constitution is working, how the Constitution is going to be changed, because it's not only going to affect the House of Representatives, Executive Department, but it would affect all of us if there will be any changes. So I urge the people to learn more and read more and no to fake news lang.
Yes,
You read.
yes. Exactly, Attorney Wood. My parting message would be for the young ones, the future of this country. Na unta, dili lang sila mo dwell on what is in Google, what is in there, but to deal more, tanawon gid nila kung unsay makaapektar nato kay kaya ang kanibayang mga issues currently nato kay dili lang ba karon but kitang tanan maapektuhan.
Attorney Trish.
Okay, so my parting message would be the answer to our problems sa society no kay dili ang pag-usab sa constitution kundi ang pag-implement ani. Kung tarong pagka-implement ang provisions of the constitution, then makuan po siya, maka-affect po nato sa as a society in a better way. So
And there you have it, folks. Mauni ang ato ang if the future of the Philippines are like our guests tonight, then the future is very bright
And beautiful.
and beautiful. Both sufficient in form and substance. Okay. Good night, everybody, and we hope that this discussion, this episode in Partners in Law has been helpful to you.